Welcome back. Now to Kenya now, where the counting of votes is drawing to a close at over 46,000 polling stations. There have been claims of election rigging.
Now, to give us a picture of how things are looking, we speak now to Martin Mavenjina, a senior program advisor at the Kenya Human Rights Commission. A very good morning to you, Marvin, and thank you so much, or rather Martin, and thank you so much for joining us here on eNCA this morning. I mean, there, of course, are a number of candidates who are leading the way with several million votes. But do we have a really clear picture as voting, or at least vote counting, draws to a close, exactly who it is that might be the next leader of Kenya?
Okay. Thank you, Morena and Faith, for having me on today morning. We don't have a clear picture of who the winner will be, and that is premised on the fact that the Independent Election Boundaries Commission is mandated to actually announce the winner of the presidential elections. Now, early last month, the Independent Election Boundaries Commission did allow media houses to conduct their own tallying. So most of the figures you've seen on different media stations are based on their tallying. But by law, the Independent Election and Boundaries Commission has 7 days on which to declare the winner of the presidential election. And what they've been doing is they have been verifying, most of the results have been uploaded on the portal, but by law, they are actually required to verify these results with the physical copies, and that is why it's taking a long time. Now, what this does is that, of course, it creates a sense of anxiety. Many Kenyans have been patiently waiting for who the winner of the presidential election is. But as it stands right now, if you have to go by what has been shown on different media stations, both leading candidates say they have won. Not specifically the candidates, but of course politicians alike to both the Azimio coalition that is led by Raila Odinga and the Kenya Kwanza that is led by the current Deputy President, Dr. William Ruto. So as it is right now, I can't say we have a clear winner. Because the body mandated to actually give us this information is the Independent Election Boundaries Commission. The thing I must point out now on the flip side, what this level of transparency has been good and progressive for any. It's good and progressive for any democratic society. But what it has created is there's been a lot of misinformation and disinformation. We have seen a lot of candidates being declared as winners, like today, only to be, to turn out to be losers. And I can give examples. On day one of counting, we had the current member of parliament for Langata constituency, Honorable Nixon Korea, was declared the winner on social media. And then the next day, his opponent, Mr. Jilango, was declared the winner of that specific constituency. So we've seen a lot of misinformation and disinformation in different social media platforms, specifically Twitter, Facebook, and it's quite unfortunate that these big social media platforms have not been able to, flag or do more content moderation as far as misinformation and disinformation is concerned.
Martin, as you're speaking about how there's been so much misinformation around it, can you just talk to us a little bit about the politics that are at play here? Because as you've got the two front runners, right, we've got Raila Odinga as well as William Ruto. Raila Odinga, from what we understand, has been backed by outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta, while as William Ruto obviously now stepping in with the deputy presidency. But what impact does this have on the politics of the country? And what are we anticipating from the way in which the politics has materialized between these two candidates? I mean, Raila Odinga is considered as almost a veteran opposition in that instance. But what is at play here?
So what has been even before Kenyans are actually tired of the Jubilee government, and that is primarily because of a number of things. It's a litany of things, but I can mention a few. The first is Kenya is currently grappling with a huge debt problem. The other issue that Kenyans are grappling with is the issue of the failure to deal with corruption. And when you see an incumbent, supporting a leading candidate, that of course could have influenced some voters to vote otherwise. But on the flip side, the fact that the deputy president was part of the current government also may have made him lose some votes. So the thing I must point out is that there's been a lot of there's been a lot of voter apathy. So not all Kenyans managed to turn up for the election. There are actually 22 million registered Kenyan voters. Of the 22 million registered Kenyan voters, only about 14.5 were able to vote. So that clearly shows you, the voter apathy that was there amongst Kenyans. In other words, about 8 million Kenyans did not vote. The other thing I have to point out is that when you look at the third candidate and the third and the fourth candidate, about 57,000 Kenyans voted for the third candidate, and about 24,000 Kenyans voted for the candidate who is, the candidate who is leading from the back. That is in the presidential election. So that just shows you the kind of apathy that some Kenyans have. And I must point out that also there could be the high possibility that most of the youth who are eligible to vote did not vote in this election because they didn't see, what significant impact it would do to their lives. So there's been a lot of voter apathy, and that speaks a lot to what we need to do as a country.
Historically, Martin, have we seen this kind of voter apathy in Kenya? I mean, you are mentioning it's coming up this time probably largely because of the inability to deal with corruption and the debt crisis that Kenya is facing. But historically, has Kenya seen this kind of voter apathy?
No, we've not seen this kind of voter apathy. If you looked at this election is, a make or break for many Kenyans, and you would have expected, very many Kenyans to come out and vote because there's a lot at stake. I mean, and the sad reality is, or the bitter reality is, Kenyans are between a rock and a hard place because I must say, both leading candidates may not be the best solution for Kenya, but you have to make a choice on which candidate you'd want to lead you, for the next 5 years, and that is primarily because Kenya is dealing with a huge debt crisis, and the impact of that debt crisis, the way it affects an ordinary Kenyan is that the cost of living in Kenya is increasing by the day. Prices of basic commodities are increasing by the day, and that is how it indirectly affects Kenyans. About a year or two before the run-up to the elections, the Kenyan government actually wanted to expand the executive, and this would also and this was an initiative that was led by the president and his and the current presidential the leading candidate for the Azimio coalition. So that fortunately that those and you must have seen is called the Building Bridges Initiative. Building Initiative sought to amend 78 provisions of the Kenyan Constitution, and such an amendment is so significant. So that could, fortunately for all Kenyans, that amendment did not sail through because the Supreme Court ruled that the way it was conducted was unconstitutional, and the way that also panned out also actually affected the outcome of this president. Will have a huge significance on the outcome of this presidential election, because when you look at Raila Odinga, he's a veteran politician. This is his fifth stop at the presidency. And like they always say, if you experience in a specific thing, then this should have been a walk in the park for him. But when you look at the kind of the results that at least are trickling in, it's really a tight race, and it's very hard to to determine who exactly would win the presidential election. And we are at day 5 of tallying those results.
As you're speaking about how even when it comes to Mr. Odinga, that one would have expected this to almost be a landslide for him. But in terms of opposition politics, particularly in Kenya and how it's played out, I mean, I do understand that it wasn't even with the International Criminal Court in 2011, for example, they were still putting Uhuru Kenyatta as well as William Ruto under investigation for the crimes committed against opposition, as well as, the people that were supporting him at the time, right? And if you have to compare it now with how one would have expected that Kenyans want some kind of introduction of new governance. And it appears as though it may not necessarily be as simple as that. What do we owe this to? Is it, one, the lack of trust in opposition parties as well as what they can bring to the table? Or is it B, that, simply Kenyans have decided that all politics is flawed and that there's no actually somebody who can take Kenya forward from a perspective of political governance?
Thank you. So So prior to the 2017 election, and for the longest time, Mr. Raila Odinga has been, the face of the opposition, the voice of the opposition in Kenyan politics. Now, right after the 2017 elections, and after the run of the presidential elections, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga had a handshake moment, and Raila was, brought into the government, and there was an agreement of some sort. That was good for the country, for peace, stability, economic progress, because there was a lot at stake. But what that did was that it killed, the handshake just did away with the aspect of opposition. Since then, since the handshake happened, we have not seen, anybody criticizing government decisions. The Jubilee government has disobeyed very many orders. They have made a lot of unlawful appointments, including the position of the chief administrative secretary in about 16 or 17 of the ministries we have here. And despite courts pronouncing themselves that some of these positions are unlawful appointments. So that was when the rain started beating us in Kenya. When the handshake moment happened, yes, it was a good moment for peace, stability, and progress, but it killed opposition. And as we stand right now, and even when you look at parliament, decisions were made by parliamentarians without, with little or less sense of opposition. Now, the opposition began to come in from within government because the deputy president felt like he was sidelined from government. He was he's on numerous instances made statements to the effect that he's been removed from key decision making meetings or committees. So he's been literally sidelined. So that we saw a strange semblance of opposition from within government, from somebody who is in government. Now, all of us know that it's very hard to tell people that you're actually opposition, but from within government, because our understanding of being in the opposition is usually when you're out of government. So that is the kind of opposition that we've had for the last 4.5 years.